Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, May the 10th, 2016. I call this meeting to order, and I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And that motion carries 7-1. At this time, would everyone please stand for the opening prayer and the pledge? Our Father, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Then moving to agenda item number 4, the Legacy Builders Spatial Recognition, the School Level Volunteers of the Year. Ms. Amy Murray.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Blackburn, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and all of you who have joined us tonight. Tonight, we'd like to show our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the individuals, groups, and businesses that give their time and resources to help our students, faculty, and staff. We have a number of volunteers and businesses that selflessly and consistently give because they know the power of giving, of volunteering, of lending a hand, and paying it forward. These volunteers and groups understand, that our future lies with the students who attend the schools in our district each and every day. And they are willing to work with our administrators, faculty, and staff to ensure that the future is bright. Mr. Willis Sanders, former Berkeley County School District Chief Human Resources Officer, created the artwork that you all will receive tonight. Excuse me. I have been suffering from a cold, and it's very difficult right now, so please excuse me. So, Mr. Sanders' artwork. Each piece has a letter with it, a heartfelt message. A portion of that letter reads, "The Berkeley Electric Co-op is a partner of Berkeley County School District, and we want to congratulate you for being selected, honored, and appreciated as a school level volunteer of the year." Enclosed is a personally signed copy of the Morris Island Light. It is a small token of appreciation for the big difference you make in the lives of our students. At the base of the light is a heart to symbolize your love for involvement. Like the Pelicans, we are flying in the same direction as a team to provide a bright and shining future for our students, our most precious resource, and the many dots in the heart. Sincerely, Willis Sanders, volunteer and Berkeley Electric Co-op board member. We can never repay you for your outstanding positive impact you make every day on our students, teachers, and administrators. But please accept the gifts we have for you tonight as a sign of our immense appreciation for you and all you do. At this time, would Superintendent Blackburn and Mr. Hayes come down and take your place in front of the stage? Okay, so a few directions before we get started. When I call your name, please come forward. Receive your pen from Superintendent Blackburn and Mr. Hayes, then make your way around to the stage where Jess, please wave Jess, and Mr. Sanders, are standing to give you your certificate. After that, please make your way to the back of the room where Jordan, please wave Jordan, is standing to take your photo. After that, please make your way back to your seats. Okay, so now our 2016 School Level Volunteers of the Year. Berkeley Alternative School, Georgetta C. Rivers. Berkeley Elementary, Elaine Peterson. Berkeley High, Carolyn West. Berkeley Intermediate, Jennifer Wren. Berkeley Middle College, Joel Rogers. Berkeley Middle, Glenn Holland. Boulder Bluff Elementary, Rebecca Tolbert. Kane Hoy Elementary Middle, Newcore Steele Berkeley. Kane Bay Elementary, Jenna Matson. Kane Bay High, the Black Thimble Society of Costume Creators. Kane Bay Middle, Rebecca Ramos. College Park Elementary, Kathy Langen. College Park Middle, Teresa Karcher Ramsey. Cross Elementary, Annie Spann. Cross High, Mandy Ravenel. Daniel Island School, Kelly Murray. Devon Forest Elementary, Donna Owen. Fishburne Educational Center, Cynthia Meadows. Goose Creek High, Mary Du Bois. Goose Creek Primary, Annette Congree. H.E. Bonner Elementary, Tanya Kales. Hanahan Elementary, Jocelyn Bermudez. Hanahan High, Mark Murray. Hanahan Middle, Casey Tangeman. Howe Hall Ames, Tracy Cromer. J.K. Gordine Elementary, Ruth Jenkins. Macedonia Middle, Amanda Wyndham. Merrington Elementary, Desiree Fetty. Merrington Middle, Nicole Galunas. Nexton Elementary, Sarah Pfister. Sangaree Elementary, Mandy Pompey. Sangaree Intermediate, Michelle Chapman. Sangaree Middle, Cheryl Gonzalez. Sedgefield Intermediate, H.B. Borden. Sedgefield Middle, Misha Humphreys. St. Stephen Elementary, Roscoe Reading Program. St. Stephen Middle, Mardine Gordine. Stratford High, James Sir. Timberland High, Sharon Gadsden. Westview Elementary, Monday Folder Brigade. Westview Middle, Rosalind Mood. Westview Primary, Michelle Singletary. Excuse me, Michael Singletary. Westview Primary, Michael Singletary. And finally, last but not least, Whitesville Elementary, Rebecca Devereaux. We're going to give them a few minutes. And at this time, could we give all of our school-level volunteers of the year a round of applause? And that concludes our special recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Well, as an old educator, I can say that without volunteers, our schools would struggle on a daily basis because there are just so many things that need to be done that there's not enough time in a teacher or an administrator's calendar or that time of day to do all of the chores. And, I can't express my thanks to you all for the time that you spend helping with the schools. Anybody else have a comment? Then moving on to the executive session where we will be taking legal advice about Title IX. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice in reference to Title IX. Do we have a discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have some questions that don't fall within the categories listed in the statute, which allow for secret meetings or meetings to be closed, and so I'd ask that, so that this board complies with the FOIA law, that my questions be publicly addressed to the lawyer, Mr. Regal, who's present in the back of the room. I have procedural questions about the case, and I think for all the folks that are here, whether you're here in favor of transgender usage of bathrooms or opposed to it, I think we can all agree that some of the questions that we should ask should be out in the public, and that we shouldn't have a secret meeting on this issue, that this issue should be discussed publicly to the extent we're allowed under the law. We are allowed under the law, and to the extent that we do not, that my questions are asked in executive session, they'd be in violation of the FOIA law. Superintendent Blackburn sent an email that board update for the reason for John Regal being here, and I'll quote that email. It says, quote, John Regal will be here to provide information and answer questions regarding Title IX and the recent Fourth Circuit ruling regarding access to restrooms by transgender students. My questions are about a publicly available court decision. They're not privileged. The public clearly has an interest in our questions, which is why they're here today, why so many people are here. And so I think those questions need to be addressed publicly. There's a prior reported decision by the South Carolina Supreme Court that was brought against the school district, this school district, by the Post and Courier. Post and Courier versus Berkeley County School District, and the court agreed with the Post and Courier and said that they agreed with the Evening Post's argument that attorneys were only hired as a means to insulate the board from FOIA compliance. And I fear that we're going to fall into that same trap tonight, and so I'd ask that my questions be addressed publicly, not in secret, so that the public can at least get some knowledge about the Fourth Circuit opinion and its holding and the procedural status of that case. I think everybody here is entitled to hear those questions, whether you're in favor of or against what we're talking about tonight. So that's my discussion, and I'd ask that John Regal come forward to answer a couple of my procedural questions.
Mr. Chair, I would call for a vote unless there's other discussion.
I agree with Mr. McQuillan that I do not feel like that this is an appropriate discussion to be had behind closed doors. This isn't clear enough to be executive session. If there are questions about a specific student or a specific administrator, that's appropriate for behind closed doors, but questions about the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, how they ruled and what that means, in our lawyer's opinion, is not privileged information. That's not something that should be kept from the public. The public wants us to do business in front of them because they want to understand what we believe and what questions we're asking, and we should not avoid the public by going behind closed doors.
Okay. To amend the agenda, which is what you're asking us to do. The item that you are referring to must be an action item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that there are some issues regarding students that probably need to be discussed in executive session. Can we discuss those and then come back? And Mr. McQuillan said that he has questions that need to be discussed in open session. Can we not do that? Have the very specific questions answered that are under executive session law, and then come back and answer the questions that are allowed in open session, or should be discussed in open session? Can we not do that?
All right, again, we are in a position where we could be in violation of the state's rules as far as amending an agenda without the proper time to inform the public of that change.
Mr. Chairman, the agenda says legal advice regarding Title IX. It's on the agenda. I'm not asking that the agenda be amended. In fact, I made the motion to approve the agenda. What I'm asking is exactly what Ms. Lee suggested, which is whether I ask my questions prior to executive session or after. I cannot ask my questions in a secret meeting under the state FOIA law. And so whether it's action as required from executive session or whether we do it before executive session, I'm simply want to ask questions that I am not allowed to ask in a secret meeting under the FOIA statute related to Agenda Item 5, legal advice regarding Title IX.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, I'd be in favor of asking those questions during Agenda Item 7, actions required after executive session. I think that's the appropriate time, especially if there are questions that's good for the public to hear.
Well, I don't disagree. I just don't want to make this board be in violation of the new agenda law.
Mr. Chair, I think this board will be in violation if we discuss things that should be discussed in public and private. That matters to these people a lot more than this agenda or 24 hours notice. Although this is a meeting of the board that the public gets to attend and we should follow appropriate process, people are not here because they enjoy to see the board. We never have these kind of people showing up to see the board. We meet every 2 times a month. They're here because they have something very important they want to hear about and they want to voice their opinions about. I also was very concerned that executive session would come before people had the opportunity to be heard. And so if there are questions that don't comply with FOIA, that absolutely should not be behind closed doors. If there are questions about specific children or specific administrators or specific lawsuits that already exist, that is appropriate for executive session. So if that's what we're going to talk about, I don't have an issue with the executive session, but general questions should not be behind closed doors.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with the question being asked. But if we are given legal advice, I think we need to go ahead and have executive session, receive whatever legal advice we need to receive, and then if he desires to ask questions on the return, we'll allow him to do that.
I can work with that.
I would like to note that legal advice does not mean that you are not subject to FOIA, and this board has found itself in an unfortunate position in the past by having legal counsel to avoid FOIA. So if the purpose of executive session is to discuss specific students, specific lawsuits, or specific administrators, that is appropriate. If it is not, it is inappropriate.
Well, we have a motion on the floor, don't we?
We have a motion.
Let's call
It's
for the
been
vote.
seconded. It's been discussed. All of those in favor of going into executive session, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
So we have a vote of 6-2. At this time, we'll go into executive session, and for those people who have come for the volunteer information and so forth, the ceremony, if you wish to leave at this time, this would be a good time for you to do that. All right, do I have a motion to return to general session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion to return to general session from executive session. Is there any discussion? And at this time, we'll take a vote. All of those in favor of returning to general session, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstention, sir. I abstain.
Attorney Regal, consistent with our discussion, we agreed to have some questions open to the public, and what I want to make clear, I'm not taking a position for or against any sort of policies or anything like that. I just want the public to be informed about the status of what the law actually is at this point. And so my questions relate to the procedural status of this Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals decision. That case has not been finally decided, has it, Mr. Regal?
That is correct. The judgment of the three-judge Fourth Circuit panel that was issued on April 19th is currently stayed. The jurisdiction remains in the Fourth Circuit, so it is subject to revision by the Fourth Circuit.
And that case was sent back to the lower court, correct?
Yes. That's what the judgment provides for. But again, what's called the mandate is stayed pending the appeal to the full Fourth Circuit, so it hasn't been sent back.
And my real question, and the heart of the question, is that the lower court has not decided whether transgender students face discrimination in Virginia, and that question is still left open to the lower court, correct?
Yes, I think it's...
In other words, the case in Virginia is not a finally decided case, correct?
There is not a final judgment in the case, no.
And you would agree with Francisco Negron, General Counsel for the National School Boards Association, who says that the law is, quote, unsettled when it comes to what school officials are obligated to do to accommodate transgender students, correct?
I think that is correct. There's the Department of Education regulation, and its interpretation of its regulation says generally school districts should treat transgender students consistent with their gender identity. So, not only is there the fact that the jurisdiction remains with the Fourth Circuit, so there's not a final judgment, but there's that term generally in even the Department of Education's interpretation that leaves a significant amount of ambiguity that needs to be resolved.
And that's really my concern, is we're dealing with unsettled law. This issue never came before the board until tonight. It was never voted on by the board tonight. And so it just concerns me that we're diving into the sea of political controversy as it relates to unsettled bathroom usage. In my mind, we ought to focus on increasing student performance and educating our children rather than diving into these political issues. But it is what it is. We're here where we are now, and I appreciate your clarification to the audience as to what the actual status of the law is.
Thank you.
Mr. Regal, I have a question. Is there any guidance in the current Fourth Circuit about fluidity of transgender sexuality, or any guidance that can be given to us on how to work with transgender children?
Not in the Fourth Circuit decision, except it does, there's three judges on the panel. Each one issued a different decision. The main decision said explicitly that if a student is uncomfortable, I think they referred to him as, is modest about the possibility of sharing a bathroom with a transgender student, that the school district should make arrangements for that student to protect that student's privacy. That's really the only guidance they give on that issue.
Generally, are school districts approaching this with a written policy or individual student reviews?
Individual student reviews. And I think that's because, in part, you do have that language in the guidance from OCR that it says generally this is the case. And because each student might want or need different accommodations. And the general scope of the accommodations you're looking at are, what dress code does the student have to comply with? There's, restroom usage, there's name, what name is the student going to be referred to? How is the student's sex going to be shown on school documents? What sex ed class does the student participate in? So there are a variety of issues that need to be really addressed on an individual basis with each family. And that's why it's really typically be case by case.
Okay.
And also to add, it does need to, the OCR guidance on it indicates that it really should be on request of the student or family. So it's not an axiomatic, I get to be treated in all respects consistent with gender identity. And it does deal with transgender students, not, I think the term would be gender fluid. And the school district serves a gatekeeper function of making a determination based on evidence of whether a student meets the criteria to be transgender as opposed to gender fluid.
In those topics that you included, bathroom usage, or have sports or overnight trips, or have there been any guidance on participation in activities?
No, and I think that's an area that guidance would be very helpful. I mean, I think my opinion on OCR's position, which is the Office for Civil Rights for the Department of Education, which enforces Title IX with respect to school districts, would be that in all sort of respects, they need to be treated consistently with their gender identity, and that would be sports and overnight trips. There are other documents that deal with some of those issues. For example, there was a settlement by a school district in Illinois with the Department of Education that dealt with the locker room issue in sports, in which the agreement was we'll treat the student consistent with their gender identity in those areas. Another settlement in California with a school district that dealt with the issue of overnight trips. But again, I think those are the kinds of things that need to be dealt with sensitively and on a case-by-case basis. But we don't have much guidance on this. This is, an issue that has seemingly exploded onto, the school world, and though we don't have a lot of guidance on how to handle all those yet, and the issues haven't come up in those circumstances for us in most cases. So.
Mr. Riegel, so South Carolina falls within the jurisdiction of this Fourth Court Circuit of Appeals, correct?
Correct.
So from what I understand, they have not made any decision. So the statement that the district made that said that transgender students shall be allowed to use the restroom for gender which they have identified with, that decision still has not been made. That's why it's been sent down to the lower courts, correct?
I think that the Fourth Circuit upheld or said the Department of Education's interpretation of its regulation should be given controlling weight. They had issued that decision. Now that decision is subject to revision. It's not a final decision. It could be revised further by the Fourth Circuit. But they did not, so I'm sorry, I lost my, can you repeat the question?
So the statement that the district made that transgender students shall be allowed to use restrooms for gender in which they identify was not the decision of the Fourth Circuit Court.
That was not the express decision. They said the Department of Education's interpretation, which says generally transgender students should be allowed to use bathrooms consistent with their gender identity, is to be given controlling weight. So I think the question then really becomes, if a student requested that accommodation of this district and it was denied and they brought suit or filed a complaint with the Department of Education, would the district court in South Carolina give deference to the current decision of the Fourth Circuit. And so that's the legal question. And we talked about that in executive session, but I think my answer to that question, I think, is legal advice.
So
But
it sounds like the Department of Education is struggling with its own definition of gender and it's throwing it back to the courts.
No.
For the courts to make that decision.
No, the Department of Education isn't. A school district in Virginia said, we are not going to allow students to use the group restroom for the sex with which they identify. The student then sued the school district. Also, the ACLU and the Department of Justice sued the school district. And the district court, the trial court, said that the Department of Education's interpretation of its regulation was an overreach and was not consistent with the law, and threw out the case on that part of the case. There were some other claims. The Fourth Circuit issued a decision overruling the district court's decision, saying the district court failed to accord the Department of Education's interpretation of the regulation controlling weight, and asked the district court to reevaluate its decision, giving controlling weight to the Department of Education's interpretation.
The board would like to make this statement. It appears the implementation of Title IX interpretation concerning transgender students and their use of the restroom based on the gender with which they identify is still unresolved by the courts. School administrators will continue to manage requests made by or on behalf of transgender students in reference to the use of restroom facilities for the remainder of the 2015-16 school year, in hopes of receiving a clearly defined direction from the courts prior to the start of the upcoming school year. The district will continue to maintain and respect the privacy rights of all of its students. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Go on.
Moving on to agenda item number 7, the election of board officers. Each year in May, we elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. The term of their office is for a 1 year, 1 calendar year. And so at this time, I would take a motion for a choice of a chairman.
I make a motion to nominate Jim Hayes as our chairman.
Second.
We have a motion. Are there any other nominations? Then at this time, I guess we'll take a vote. All of those in favor of Jim Hayes as the chairman, please respond by raising your right hand.
Take both.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a nomination for a vice chairman?
Vice Chairman.
I make a motion that Kathy Schwalbe be our vice chair.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Then at this time, all of those in favor of electing Ms. Kathy Schwalbe as the vice chair, please respond by raising your right hand.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. And the nomination for secretary.
Mr. Hayes, what was the vote on that?
It was all votes.
6-2, okay.
7-8.
Do I have a nomination for secretary?
Mr. Chair, I nominate Shannon Lee for secretary.
Second.
All right, we have a nomination of Shannon Lee. Do we have any other nominations? Then at this time, all of those in favor of electing Ms. Shannon Lee as our secretary for another year, please respond by raising your right hand. Okay. On a vote of 8-0. Okay. That's behind us. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of our Head Start training on April the 26th, 2016, and our regular meeting of April the 26th, 2016?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the Head Start training on April 26th and the regular meeting on that date.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the Head Start training of April 26th and the regular meeting of April the 26th. It's been seconded. Do we have any discussion or change in the minutes? Then all of those in favor of approving the minutes, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10, which is our citizens' comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. That stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will take and not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints about employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. What we're going to do is we will let you know at 2 minutes and 50 seconds to sum it up.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
We're in a black hole.
We have a set aside 30 minutes for comments. Now, looking at the stack that we have more comments than we have time. We have kept these in the order in which they were submitted, and when we get to the 30 minutes, we will stop there, okay? So the board chair does reserve the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to these guidelines that we have just discussed, okay? Our first speaker coming to the podium is Tabitha Moore, and she wants to talk about the transgender restroom.
Thank you, Superintendent and Board, for hearing my concerns. I would like to begin that stating, unless otherwise stated, the factual statistics that I'm going to present came directly from the U.S. Department of Justice National Sex Offenders Public website. As you will see, while the transgenders issue concerns me, it is the predators who will take advantage of being allowed easy access to members of the opposite sex that extremely concerns me. It is unfortunate that transgenders are set apart, but gaining access to restrooms is not going to make things better. But instead, the chances are much higher for things to get worse. What about the victims of sexual abuse? What about their rights? An estimated 0.3% of the American population is transgender, whereas just looking at women's statistics, an estimated 18% of women population in the United States have been raped during their lifetime. Who is standing up for them when it comes to privacy in the restroom or locker rooms? Research conducted by the Center for Disease Control estimates that approximately 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before the age of 18. How do you explain to a youth that has been sexually abused that they have to go to the bathroom or locker room with the opposite sex and expose themselves around them? A few statistics from the Department of Justice regarding adolescents' sexual abuse. Not all perpetrators are adults. An estimated 23% of reported cases of child sexual abuse are perpetrated by individuals under the age of 18. 28% of male rape victims were first raped when they were 10 years or younger. In a 2012 maltreatment report of victims who were sexually abused, 26% were in the age group of 12 to 14 years, and 34% were younger than 9 years. Approximately 1.8 million adolescents in the United States have been the victims of sexual abuse. 35.8% of sexual assaults occur when the victim is between the ages of 12 and 17. 82% of juvenile victims are female. Teens 16 to 19 years of age were 3.5 times more likely than general population to be victims of a rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. How can you ignore these facts and cater to the 3% of population and disregard all of the victims of sexual assault? While I understand the need to feel comfortable in your surroundings, I cannot sit by and do nothing when predators are giving even easy access to my children and me. As a personal victim of rape in high school, I cannot imagine being forced to go to school and change in a locker room with anyone who has the private parts of the opposite sex. I understand that transgenders do not identify with their body, but they still may exhibit the private parts. That terrified me as a victim of rape. With the school opening restrooms to transgenders, you are not only creating a very difficult situation for victims of sexual abuse, but you are creating easy access for predators to gain access to our children.
Need to sum it.
As I understand it right now, transgenders can use the restroom of their choice. But people who are victims of sexual abuse and who are uncomfortable with the situation will become targeted by having to use a specific restroom. So once again, I ask, who is looking out for the best interest of sexual abuse victims and our children? Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. All right, our second speaker will be Thomas B. Aldridge, again on the transgender decision.
Good evening. My name is Thomas B. Aldrich. I'm a local minister and business owner, and I have a daughter at Berkeley High School. I haven't come here tonight to bash anyone, transgenders, school board members, or anyone else, because I've come to understand after reading the legal depositions and staying up late, studying Title IX, I've come to understand that the weight of this decision has been unfairly put on your shoulders. I've come to understand it's easy for bureaucrats to try to implement something when they don't have to face a constituent. I've come to understand that you all, if I believe in my own mind, if this thing had just went on by, you would have been very happy about that, but it didn't. And to add insult to injury, you're elected official. So no matter what you do, a yes vote, which I'm very much against, a yes vote or a no vote, just pick your firing squad, because it's either the federal government or your constituents. And I would have anyone else coming up here, if they have any hostility towards you as individuals or personally, I'd ask them to waylay that in lieu of the fact that you didn't ask for this. And I have compassion on your situation, and I am praying for a resolve that will be beneficial to you personally and your position as a school board member. However, the heart of the matter is this, and will always be the heart of the matter, that when you serve the public, especially the oversight of our children, who are helpless and innocent, and they need us, they have no one. We're it. You're it. As a parent, I'm it. There's nobody coming. We're it. That you have to decide is, if you haven't already, that a position on the school board, and your motto on your website is to protect the children, is to protect our children. If your position is a career, you will take the path of least resistance. If it's a call, and I believe the oversight of our children should be a call, school teacher, administrator, school board member, if it's a call, you will sacrifice future and fortunes to make sure nothing happens to these children.
Amen.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Dunn. Susan Dunn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Susan Dunn. I'm the legal director for the ACLU of the state. And the first thing I want to do is thank you for your service. This is very hard work that you do. You're called upon to make difficult decisions, but decisions that require that you serve all of the precious children of this school district. And some of those students, whether you expected it or not, are transgender. And I think you have an obligation, in fact, I know you have an obligation to take the information about those students and make the decision that is right for those students based upon the information that you have, which includes the expert information of the people who are treating these children. A transgender child is not somebody who just wakes up someday and decides, I want to be the other sex. This is a serious process that involves pediatricians, therapists, and doctors. Not anything to be sneered at, not anything to be seen as making that child dangerous. In fact, they get so much treatment, they're probably less dangerous than children who have not been screened in any way. You are called, even though if it's something you may not know anything about, to figure out the best thing to do in this situation. If you're concerned about pedophiles, be concerned about pedophiles. Make sure that your schools are safe and the pedophiles do not get in those schools, and that you have counseling for all of the children in your school so that any children who are aggressive sexually are screened. That has nothing particular to do with transgendered children. If you're concerned about safety in the school locker rooms and restrooms, make sure you say that that happens. Have monitors. Be concerned about that, but don't put it on the backs of these children who are trying to be like all children. They're trying to survive, and they're trying to be the best people that they can be, and their families are desperately supporting them doing that. Just because we haven't understood this process doesn't mean it hasn't been going on for years. There's much evidence that the children who are transgender, who do not get the proper support, are really, really, really subjected to opportunities for substance abuse, suicide, and other kinds of self-destructive activities because they have not been treated with compassion and dignity. That's your job. I understand that you're looking at these legal decisions and trying to figure out, what sense to make of. The real answer, this is my lawyer hat speaking, is that what stands between a clear decision is a petition for an en banc review of the Fourth Circuit decision. I looked up the figures. The percentage of en banc petitions that are granted is 0.3%. That's how many are granted, not the decision that's made, but just the opportunity to be heard. There's not much standing between the decision that's been issued and a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Melissa Moore.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. My name is Melissa Moore. I'm the Executive Director of We Are Family, one of very few resources in this state that offers support for LGBT youth, meaning lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth. Being a teenager is difficult enough, and it is that much harder for transgender youth who have also to wonder if they will be safe doing the things all of you take for granted. When the issue of bathrooms comes up, the word safety gets thrown around a lot. Let's be honest, some people talk about safety as if transgender people are going to hurt someone. There is absolutely no evidence of that happening, and the reality is quite the opposite. I'm going to read some names. Maybe they will ring a bell. Poppy Edwards, Ty Underwood, Bree Golick, Leela Alcorn. I could go on and on. These are just a few of the transgender young people who lost their lives last year due to ignorance and violence. Transgender lives have been under attack in our schools regardless of the lies that people believe in this room today. I have been working with students and families from Berkeley County since 2010, and I've had the opportunity to watch kids like Sarah Gary and Cole Dowd, who are going to address you tonight, grow into the strong leaders that you see before you today. I've supported a lot of these youth through the bullying that they endured from hostile parents, school staff, and peers. I've stood alongside them as the very adults that were sworn to protect them turned their backs on them, and as parents attacked them and outed them in the media. These transgender students are beyond brave, they're heroes, and they shouldn't have to fight as hard as they do just to have a safe place to pee. Compliance with the Fourth Circuit Court ruling is not asking anyone to compromise their safety. Young people are simply asking that schools make a safe place for them where they can use the bathroom in peace, go to a dance, participate in campus life, and just be kids. And by denying transgender students access to the things that match their gender identities, you're telling them that their safety and comfort don't matter. And I hear a lot of people talking about the safety of students. Which students? You're not talking about transgender kids. This is not just about fairness, this is about the law. Not providing accommodations for transgender students, including the use of gendered facilities, means that a school and the state could be at risk of losing educational funding. The ruling of the U.S. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes South Carolina, also protects the rights of students to keep confidential the student's legal name and use the student's preferred name in all visible and audible instances like yearbook, power teacher, school IDs, and roll calls. Use the student's preferred gender pronouns. Allow students to participate in contests, sports teams, and events that match their gender identities. Allow students to dress in the manner that is consistent with their gender identities. Allow students to participate with a group that aligns with their gender identities in all gender-segregated activities, and implement a grievance process when their gender identities are not respected. My organization offers free technical assistance and training for school staff and volunteers, and we would be happy to work with your district to help implement these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Leanne Leland.
Thank you. I have a few statistics I would like to throw out there. Without support, 41% of transgender youth will attempt suicide, and that's the low figure. The high figure is 65% will attempt suicide. With support, that figure drops down to 5%. On college campuses, 10% of all women will be raped, not by transgender people, not by bathroom access, but by fellow students. 25% will undergo persistent, unwanted sexual advances. Google transgender sexual abuse, and you will find thousands upon thousands of stories of abuse committed on the transgender community, not by them, on them. We are not the predators. We are not the problem. Our culture is the problem. We tell little Julie at school that if little Johnny's pulling her hair, oh, that just means that he likes you. When does that become unacceptable? When does violence against women become unacceptable in our culture? The truth is, it doesn't. This is not about being transgender. This is about your fear of men. Fear of men who will take advantage, any advantage, to abuse women. That is the issue that needs to be addressed. Let transgender people use the restroom. We're not a threat, I can promise you that. But keep an eye on the men. They are. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cade Dowd. Cole, I'm sorry. We're going to smack your sixth grade teacher's hands for this.
Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for letting me speak. It really means a lot. I'm a senior right now at the Berkeley Middle College, and my whole life I've identified as transgender. It's not the first thing I go by. It's one of the very last, actually. It is a private matter that I keep, only my medical records. And the only reason I'm expressing this publicly right now is because my safety can become an issue if I'm not allowed to use the bathroom that my gender is expressed by. Growing up, I have had hardships of harassment by many people, and the older I got and the more comfortable I got with being myself, it slowly dissipated. I was able to fit in. I was able to, one of the things was go to the bathroom and not have any problems. I have never had someone come up to me and say it was a problem of me using the men's restroom. Now, if I went into the women's restroom right now, I don't know. And I am worried if by a day-by-day basis that I have to be confined to that I would face hardship in a lot of matter. The fact that people have talked about suicide rate and harassment scares me. It scares me that transgender people are targeted by a daily basis, and they're not just harmed, they're killed. I just wish that people in the future, students, are able to be safe in all matters and forms. And I just, I don't know. I just want to set an example because there are transgender students and they're as important as any other person. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sarah Gary.
Hello. Before I start, Mr. Aldridge, I would just like to say that I do go to school with your daughter, Leia, and she's great, and she's really sweet, and I don't think that she's worried about me using the same restroom as her. And ma'am, I'm very sorry about what happened to you. I honestly, I can't even express to you how tragic that is, and I understand that you feel so much pain from that, and I'm so sorry. But if you're afraid of what I have in my pants, that's not anything that I can change. Good evening. My name is Sarah Gary. I am 16 years old, and I am the president of the sophomore class at Berkeley High School, member of the National Beta Club, and member of leadership and number 86 in my class, and I am transgender. I've been attending Berkeley County schools for my entire academic career and have faced many obstacles. From being forced to participate on the male side of gender-specific class activities and being prohibited from using the bathroom that matches my gender identity. Needless to say, I have suffered greatly from these restrictions, both mentally and socially. However, until just a few weeks ago, this was the end of my story. Now my story has a very different ending, a very happy ending, where my school calls me and gives me the best news of my life. That I was finally going to be able to use the female restroom. Principal Steele always told my mother and I that the minute there was a change in state legislation, he would let us know so that I would no longer have to fight this battle. And a few weeks ago, that moment finally came. It breaks my heart, however, that there is so much ignorance and misunderstanding about what being transgender entails and what this new process means for your students, sons, daughters, cousins, brothers, sisters, and other family members. But I can tell you, I have no other agenda when I walk into that restroom other than to do my business on that filthy toilet and move on. Except, that is a lie. I will probably stop at the mirror and snap a few selfies with my friends to make up for all those I've been missing out on since the 4th grade. And I'll probably wash my hands and carry on a conversation with a fellow classmate about what has been going on in their life lately. The bathroom is more than just a place to pee. For me, the bathroom is a social destination for when you need some time away from the classroom for a moment. For every girl, the bathroom is a place where hair and makeup touch-ups are done and teeth are checked and tears are wiped. The bathroom is where you go when you've been having a rough day and need a breather. The bathroom is where you go when you need to tell your friends about how that one guy totally looked at you in the hall just now. The bathroom is where you and your friends socialize, laugh, and talk about everything that's going on in your lives too. Oh, and you can pee there too. The bathroom means so much more to me than any of you will ever understand. I have waited for this right for longer than I can remember, and I am so proud and honored to be a student at Berkeley High. Berkeley High did not make this step forward for the sake of media attention. They did not want any recognition for their implementation. They simply did it because it was the right thing to do, and they were advocating for their student. It was not at all necessary to involve the school board in this process because it was not a voting decision. No, ma'am, it's not.
Sum it up, please.
And required no community input. Berkeley High School and Cane Bay High School implemented this ruling because it is the law, and no matter what any school board official thinks, it must be set into motion. I hope that I have clarified what it means to be transgender to some of you, and hope that you all have a better understanding of what this new legislation means for myself and so many others. I would also like to say thank you so much to Stephen Steele, Charlie Harrison, Kelly Wolf, Terry Hover, and Jerome Davis for making this leap and allowing me to become my whole true self and sincerely changing my life for the better. This means the world to me. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Princess Hollis.
Good evening. Though I come here from the neighboring district of Charleston County, I'm here today as a representative of Southerners on New Ground and a resident of the state. I'm here today to speak to you all as the body of people elected to uphold the serious responsibility of creating and maintaining a healthy educational environment for all students in this county. So we see this lukewarm response that you guys have given as a blatant attack on transgender people, but it's directed at all the folks who are in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, as well as people who are on the variable spectrum of a gender expression. And in this state, we've seen how transphobia continues to impact transgender people, especially trans youth. This decision mirrors the discriminatory bills that have been popping up all across the South, and that dictates how trans people are being banned from public spaces and public accommodations. The recent ruling from the 4th District Circuit Court is a clear signal from the federal government, in addition to yesterday's legal action by the Department of Justice, that we are at a historic crossroads. This is not just a question of where people can pee. School districts and public institutions across the South and across the country must decide if they are willing to actively enforce both the discrimination against transgender students and people and enforce a climate of hate and violence, because that is what is at stake here. School districts across our state and across the country are incurring the financial and legal implications of not complying with the court's decision and being lobbied and cajoled by conservative legal entities that would have us believe that just because something is legal, that it is also just or right, which has clearly not been historically the case. Time and time again, we have seen that. I'm here today to implore you that despite the financial and legal consequences of your actions today or your inaction, that there are far deeper and longer lasting consequences, including ostracizing and isolating young people based on their gender identity or presentation and sanctioning bullying. Do you want to be known as the school board that has a lack of regard for trans students? What's next? requiring gender checkpoints for all students and teachers before they're allowed to use any restroom? Will you be known for a legacy that creates such a drastic breach of privacy? I do not need to remind you that this is not the first time that the local school boards have been called into the political circus that is the state government versus the federal government. I do not need to remind you that there have been other historic crossroads that have called for us as leaders and you all as elected officials to decide whether or not we are willing to violate the rights of some of our students in the name of the safety of others. I ask that you remember your duty to provide an environment for every student of South Carolina that is dignified and respectful, that allows them access to the most basic right of education. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Hardesty.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, members of the board, Superintendent Blackburn. I'm here because I'm concerned about several things. One, there was a statement put on the school district website that basically said you'd made a decision that didn't change policy, except that I don't think there was ever a policy while I was on the board that students of an opposite sex could use a different bathroom. So I know it's probably not specifically in the policy manual, but I think that's probably been the case for the last 20 or 30 decades in South Carolina. So I'm concerned about how many of the board members were actually participated in this decision that was put up on your Facebook page or your district website. Because I don't think the board members decided that. And I know you're in a very, very difficult position, and I don't really relish what you're going to have to do, what decisions you're going to have to make. It's going to be very difficult. Regarding the individual students, it's a tragedy that these students feel the way they do. God made them a certain way and they don't feel that way, and I think that's just, I can't imagine how they would live with that and deal with that on a daily basis. That being said, I've heard people speak that we need to keep pedophiles out of the school. I would agree with that, but unfortunately, there are children who are pedophiles. That's just a fact, and that's a harsh thing to say, but it's true. And the other thing I heard people speaking here that really disturbed me is we have cell phones taking selfies in the bathrooms. I think that's an issue the board has to deal with. I think that's a very dangerous thing. Cell phones and the technology we have today have put a lot of people in danger. People are being blackmailed from some pictures being taken by some people in bathrooms without their knowledge. It's a very dangerous and pervasive thing that needs to be dealt with. The other thing that I hope you think about this, you are talking about laws and regulations. And there's a vast difference between regulation and law. So when the Department of Education creates a regulation that may or may not be fit within the law. And as far as I know in Title IX, there is nothing in that Title IX that says you have to let a child of one sex use the bathroom of the other. So with that, I would think that you need to stop and think about that, because regulations do not trump law.
All right, and for our last speaker of this evening, Mr. Stephen Fowler Vaughn.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak. First of all, I come up here very humbled because I'm a man of God, and I'm a father, and I'm a citizen. And to speak before you, I really respect that highly, and before all the people here. I've heard a lot of different things said. My biggest concern is not transgenders. It's not the LGBT community. I have many people I know in that community. My biggest concern is, what does the bathroom, how does that change anybody's identity? I mean, how does that give any worth to anybody to use a restroom? Last time I checked, no one goes in there. Well, I mean, I guess we heard some selfies and stuff, but typically in the men's side, we go in there to use the restroom and leave. Wash your hands and leave, for those that wash their hands. And so if that's the case, what real dignity really is going to come from that? I was taught as a young man that if you have a penis, you use the restroom that you have that for. If you have a vagina, you use that restroom. I don't know why it's an issue. It shouldn't be, and it definitely shouldn't be on your heads to make some kind of decision like this, I don't think. However, you are placed in this position, and it is my hope that you guys will consider all things said. I do agree that the telephones will cause people to take pictures. My daughter a few years ago was in Walmart. We were in Walmart thinking everything was safe, and a young man came up behind her and took pictures underneath her dress, and he actually was starting to post that, had his Facebook out, and was trying to post it. Thankfully, I was able to get to him fast enough, put him in a good chokehold, and before, because that's what dads do. And I waited on the security guard to come, and the security guard came and got him and took him away. What I hear in the room today is a lot of talk and anger and things like that. In no way, shape, or form am I angry. I have a lot of friends who are LGBT. I don't even like calling them that. That sounds like a disgrace to me. They're people. And, but I do believe that in this situation, I think you should strongly consider the fact that you are elected officials by God first. And then you're also in a situation where what happens here is going to be a set of precedents for other places. And so I believe it's destiny, and I believe it's a reason that you guys are selected and elected for this time in this season. And it's my prayer and my hope that you will do the right thing. The other thing is to address some other things that was said. My son, a few years back, actually molested my daughter. He was 14, she was 10. It happened for a 6-month period. So yes, kids do molest. And yes, if they're given the opportunity, they will. And so I just want you guys to know that's my opinions tonight. I really appreciate it. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've come to the time element here of 30 minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move that. I know there's a lot of people out here that want to talk about the transgender topic, and we've heard a lot from that. In our board comments, we also say that we asked for them to elect one speaker to speak. We've heard from a number of folks that are for and against it. I happen to know there are some people in the audience that want to talk about other topics to address the board other than transgender. And if you can go through the cue card list there and find a couple of those that are that want to talk on a different topic, if you would allow them to speak, since they have not had the opportunity tonight.
Do we have
I agree. I know there's some serious budget concerns, and I know people are concerned about budgeting as well. So I would like to hear that if there's some other input on other business.
If the card got turned in time, I know of at least one.
I think you pulled up one.
Let me see the one. Okay. Honor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. William Brunson. Mr. Brunson wants to talk about the Bonner Elementary Arts Program.
Thank you, Board, and everyone here for allowing me to come and speak. A little bit nervous now to come up here and talk, but I do want you to feel my heartfelt. I know this is a tough topic, but what I want to talk about is the arts program at Bonner Elementary School. First of all, I want to thank y'all for allowing that to be a part of our district and allowing that to continue on. You know, we have a school full of talented students, and again, we thank you for the support and continued support. But what we would like for it to continue at that school. The logistics, if for students that are not able to be a part of that, you know, we have students that's in Bono and Schuylerville and Honey Hill and other parts that may have to travel to Goose Creek, and it's a real hardship on parents. And I, for one, have been a parent that had to, our child was elected to be a part of the arts program, and we had to, I live in Jamestown, so we had to take her to Goose Creek, and it really put a hardship on her. Fortunately, my wife, she was able to work things out, but for some folks that could be up to almost 3.5 hours in a vehicle just in travel alone. But you know, we just it's just the time that it takes to have kids, and that may not have the opportunities that other kids may have, because you may have parents that may not be able to allow or may not have the means, you know, the gas, you know, whatever it takes to get other children from this part of the district to the other part of the district that offer these same arts programs. But the beauty of the arts at Bonner is the entire school, you know, has the opportunity to participate, so you don't have to just single out, you know, a few to send them to another school. But that's really, in a nutshell, what I would really want to thank y'all for, and I would appreciate y'all considering that for future children coming through this system, because it's really a good system in the way they learn, and just the source of learning, how they bring things together and learn. It's really for Bonner, they're fortunate to be able to have that. But I just want to thank y'all. Appreciate y'all letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Okay, then moving on to agenda item number 11, Administrative Services, an item for information, our safety and security update.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Superintendent Blackburn, members of the board. At this time, I'd like to ask for Mr. Tim Knight to come to the podium to provide the safety and security update.
Let him stand back for a minute.
I've done it before.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Superintendent Blackburn, and members of the board. Tonight, I would like to bring to your attention our spring safety update for the 2015-2016 school year. If you recall, during the November Safety and Security Update presentation that was given, I discussed a few upcoming training sessions that we would be hosting for our administrators and teachers. This past February, we partnered with the FBI under the Operation Safe Schools initiative. Members from the FBI's Pittsburgh Division Office, as well as members of the West Virginia State Police, presented a gunfire demonstration during the district's instructional fair. Over 500 teachers, 50 administrators, and 40 local law enforcement members received this important training. Low Country News Channels 2, 4, and 5 were present and all ran news stories highlighting this important training. This was the district's highest-rated training session this year, as rated by the attendees. Plans are in the works to continue this training next year, targeting all of our administrators and teachers in every school, with our local law enforcement partners teaching the courses. The following video is the story that aired from Live 5 News.
Teachers and administrators are being taught how to recognize the sounds of a gunfire and decide if they should talk to them or make a run for it if an active shooter is at their school. Police reporter Hart Jacobs was invited to watch and hear.
Easy, 1 second.
There you go. You got it.
Perfect.
You got it.
The training that could save lives.
The police officer is firing blanks from a 45 caliber handgun inside Cane Bay Elementary School as part of an exercise designed to help teachers recognize the sound of gunshots.
We can't tell you what to do, we can tell you what not to do, and that is to freeze in fear.
Caesar is the creator of the Operation Safe School initiative. He says the goal is to help teachers and administrators improve their ability to react during an active shooter incident.
I want them to hear gunshots, I want them to understand distances and allow them to make decisions.
Caesar and his team had a show and tell for the teachers, showing them the guns that would be used: a 9mm pistol, a 45 caliber handgun, an assault rifle, and a 12-gauge shotgun.
That's as fast as you can text a letter, you can press this button.
The teachers are then taken to a computer room where they will hear gunshots from different distances.
Some of the misconceptions of when somebody shoots a gun in a school, everybody thinks
The guns are fired one by one. Then our camera shows the shooter in the hallway, just 20 yards from the computer room. I took cell phone video of the shot from the 12-gauge shotgun. The vibration made my phone shake. Teachers who attended the training were very impressed.
And seeing the actual guns and hearing the different sounds, very good.
What is the biggest thing you got out of this?
To get out. If we can, get out.
It's advice that teachers hope they will never have to use. In Berkeley County, Hart Jacobs, Live 5 News.
The Operation Safe School initiative was begun in West Virginia. Berkeley County school administrators attended a similar class this morning in Goose Creek.
Our administrators also received hands-on training from H2H Training Solutions, focusing on injury prevention and self-defense. Our third and final session for this school year will be held in June. Due to high demand from the attendees, we have plans to continue this training next year. As you know, the district conducts at least 2 large-scale crisis simulations every year. These exercises give us the opportunity to activate our emergency procedures we have in place so we can critique and evaluate those procedures to make sure they are effective and efficient in real-life emergency situations. We conducted a large-scale active shooter drill at Hanahan High School in November and conducted a large-scale intruder drill at Whitesville Elementary in March. Here is a short video our communications department produced detailing the intruder exercise.
647 copy. You have administrator in the office. Let's get directed for that location as we usual.
Hey, Department, is this time that you have for one lockdown?
Today we conducted our spring semester full-scale crisis simulation drill at Whitesville Elementary School. These drills are very important to us because it gives us the opportunity to implement, review, and improve our emergency procedures. We appreciate the partnerships that we have with our law enforcement and first responder agencies.
Well, the Sheriff's Office has a long history of working with the school district. You know, the safety and security of our children and the schools is the utmost importance to this drill today is just part of the testing of us and the district on how we respond to these emergencies.
Hey, this is a drill.
As you are aware, in the summer of 2014, we started a training curriculum for all of our school resource officers with the intention of bringing them together for a few days of intense training and instruction. This year, our third annual SRO summer training will be held at Berkeley High School during the week of July 18th. We will have presentations from the District Special Services Division, the Kennedy Center, the Department of Juvenile Justice, and the Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office. Our school resource officers will also have hands-on training in the areas of de-escalation techniques and a full day of intense active shooter training. These summer training sessions are crucial for bringing all of our school resource officers together, since we have SROs from 6 different law enforcement agencies. Every agency has their own set of procedures and guidelines, so it's very important that we as a district bring these officers and deputies together to get everyone on the same page with not only how we handle day-to-day circumstances and issues, but also what our expectations are for protecting our schools. As noted earlier, we have plans next year to continue the FBI training for our teachers and administrators and the injury prevention self-defense training for our administrators. These are just a few examples of how the district is working hard to give our administrators and teachers, who work very hard, different tools they can use to be successful in dealing with different types of emergency situations, all while remaining safe. Looking ahead to the 2016-2017 school year, I promise you we will be staying busy with safety and security. We are currently putting the finishing touches on a new, robust, district-wide emergency reunification plan. We have been working in conjunction with our local law enforcement partners and the county's Emergency Preparedness Office to make this plan a reality. We also implemented this year the Response to Crises cards, which is a condensed version of our emergency planning and management guide. Copies were provided for all of our teachers to have in their classrooms, where they will remain. These handheld cards contain our emergency procedures and important phone numbers. And finally, a new safety implementation that I'm very excited about for next school year is our Safety and Security monthly training videos. These videos will be utilized in all of our schools during monthly staff meetings and will highlight various safety procedures. We are in the process of completing the first 5 videos, with plans to have videos produced that cover all emergency procedures and common safety hazards. Here's an example of one of our videos.
Is that too loud?
It's a little loud.
It's too loud to play. This is the last one, I promise.
Yeah, that's better.
Please take the next few minutes to discuss and review the emergency protocols highlighted in this video, which are located in the Emergency Planning and Management Guide.
That's it. Questions?
I'm curious about the hardening of all of our schools. I know we spent a lot of time and effort and money on that. Are we fully complete with all the entranceways that divert folks through front offices. Is that a complete?
We're completed with our secondary entrances. I know Berkeley, I believe, is the last school that we have on our list for the access control to be finished.
We're close.
Yes, ma'am. Very
Excellent.
close.
Thank you.
Well done, Mr. Knight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Moving on to agenda item number 12, financial services, an item for action. An RFQ 462 for the school year 15-16, an indefinite delivery contract for general contracting services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Ms. Blackburn. You have before you RFQ 462 for indefinite delivery contracts for general contracting services. We found a need to have in place several contractors to do small construction projects amounting to less than $150,000 and not to exceed $750,000 over a 2-year period. We ask for you to award this contract to 3 different vendors within this area: Infinger Construction, IPW Construction, and Treat and Woodman, all here in the general Low Country. Ask for your approval of that bid.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve RFQ 462, 15-16 for indefinite delivery contract for general contracting services to Infinger Construction Group, LLC, IPW Construction Group, LLC, and Treat and Woodman, LLC, for a contract term of 2 years or until this contract reaches a maximum of $750,000, whichever is first, as presented by Mr. Thompson in Finance Agenda Item 12.
Second.
All right.
Sorry.
We have a motion to approve the RFQ 462 for the indefinite delivery contract, general contracting services to Infinger Construction Group, IPW Construction Group, and Treat and Woodman for a contract term of 2 years or until this contract reaches a maximum value of $750,000, whichever is first, as presented by Mr. Thomas in the Finance Agenda Item 12. It's been seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Just so I understand, these 3 contractors we can pick from without doing any sort of RFP process or anything like that until the totality of all of their work is the equivalent of $750,000?
Correct, and that's what this document does, is allows us access to them without having to come back on different projects.
Okay.
Is there a mechanism in place to prevent on the day before the second year for just coming up with random projects to spend the rest of the money if there's money left at the end of that period?
We would have a not to exceed requisition purchase order that would be in the books, and budgeted line items that would clue us into making sure that we stay within those guidelines.
So let's say at the end of 1 year and 364 days, you find out there's $500,000 left in the budget, and somebody comes up with some pet project to spend that $500,000. Is there some mechanism to keep that from happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess what's the harm or the inconvenience in each time we have a project doing an RFP as opposed to sending it to one of these 3 companies?
It just gives us, again, quicker access to get the project done faster than having to come to a board meeting, every twice a month kind of thing, and just gives us quicker access to have to get them to do the project. And you would see those on a capital improvement presentation and those sorts of things. So.
Do we know what projects? Do we have any specific projects in mind? I know you said small, minor projects and that sort of thing.
I'm not sure that they really know. Is Gene still here? Any sort of specific projects that you have in mind, Gene? Or
We have one, which is a marker board replacement.
oh, what now?
A marker board replacement.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't hear him. What?
Boiler replacement.
Boiler?
Yeah.
Marker.
Oh, whiteboard. Okay.
Boiler.
All right.
I couldn't hear him either.
Any other questions? All right, then at this time, we'll take a vote on the motion. All of those in favor of approving the motion for RFQ 462, please respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So that motion carries with a 7-1. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Moving on to agenda item 13, Human Resources. Dr. Levine. Item for action, the second reading of the policies, rules, and exhibits for revision. The IHFAA Honors Diploma, IHFAAR Honors Diploma Rule, the JAC E3 Student-Owned Technology Acceptable Use Guidelines, and the JCDAR Student Behavior Code Rule.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Superintendent Blackburn, and members of the board. The policy, exhibit, and rules listed under Agenda Item 13 are being brought to you for second and final reading this evening. I would also like to note during this time that there's a change that has always been in the policies that you've received, and even though it says diploma on the agenda, that's the old name of the policy, and now it'll have certificate instead of diploma for that. So just calling that to your attention, even though the way it's listed on the diploma, that change is made in the policy itself. I also would like to call to your attention just a couple of minor changes that were made since the last time I brought this to you for first reading. If you look at page 2 of the Student Behavior Code, JCDA-R, and it's a very minor change, but I still wanted to call it to your attention. It's page 2, level of offenses, disorderly conduct level 1, and it's item 10 under the bulleted items, under acts of disorderly conduct may include but are not limited to. It read unauthorized use of electronic devices, and it had excluding cell phones. I just want to note there now that that is marked through. So that part will no longer be there where it's indicated excluding cell phones. So it will read unauthorized use of electronic devices now. And also on page 6, middle and high school students. Page 6, middle and high school students. It reads student use, expectations, and responsibilities. And I'm referring you to items 6 and 7. The phrase "for the remainder of the year" was added to both items. So in 6 and 7, the phrase "for the remainder of the year" was added to the very end of both of those items. So I just wanted to call that to your attention as well. So at this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading of policies, rules, and exhibits for revision as listed under item 13 of the May 10th, 2016 board agenda.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading of policies, rules, and exhibits for revision as listed under Agenda Item 13.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading of the policies, rules, and exhibits for revision as listed under Agenda Item 13. Is there any discussion? And all those in favor of this recommendation and this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that goes through 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item 14, instruction and accountability. The item for information, the Read to Succeed, teacher endorsement, and summer reading camp.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Blackburn, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over teacher endorsement and summer reading camps associated with Read to Succeed. Ms. Calcutta is going to brief you on that.
Good evening. Tonight I want to share with you some additional components of the Read to Succeed legislation. I want you to take a look at this graphic that you see on the screen. I think it's important that you understand that the implementation of Read to Succeed from the state level is kind of a moving target. This office has turned over multiple times, and they are trying to really grasp and understand and interpret the legislation and then trying to move that forward. So we've had, as late as Thursday, some changes that were made within that office in terms of the reading plans for the schools to be able to follow our district plan. If you think about it, we go down one road and then we're having to back up and go down another road. But we're trying our best to be sure that we're giving people clear, consistent information about what we have in the forefront and what their next steps should be. Just as a reminder, this is a very comprehensive law. It includes multiple things. Last time I came to you guys and presented the reading plan, the district reading plan, and shared with you the highlights, the goals and the action steps, as well as the belief statements. There are other parts of that plan as well, but I want you to know that I really feel like that we're in a good place as a district. We've been fortunate that many of the things that we've embraced as a district and moved forward with are things that we were really proactive on, and that these things are now as a requirement with Read to Succeed. Back in the day, you guys, with Dr. Turner, we implemented a comprehensive literacy model. And this literacy model ensured that teachers, when they're teaching, have a balanced approach. It's not just reading, it's not just writing, it's not just word study. It's an approach that allows students to engage in all parts of English language arts. So I think that's a strong foundation that we have. We also have in our district something that we were recognized for in terms of powerful practice from advanced ed, and that's our common curriculum and common assessments and PLCs. We're not where we want to be. Of course, we have room for improvement, but we have a good foundation in place. And we recognize that in our student achievement, our reading scores continue to move forward, but we have work to do in writing, and we know that that's something that we really want to focus on, and that's included as a goal within the reading plan. Tonight, I want to share a little more information about the South Carolina literacy competencies and endorsements. This is what we call an unfunded mandate. This is being imposed upon our teachers to gain an endorsement that will allow them to teach in South Carolina. There are actually a couple of ways that teachers can go about earning this endorsement. One of those ways is through graduate hours. The other way is through attaining professional development hours. And you often hear us refer to those as gaining renewal points for their certification. We want to think about this in terms of elementary teachers and secondary teachers. There are 4 modules that an elementary teacher must obtain in order to get their endorsement. And remember, they can get that through graduate hours or PD hours. The first one is content area reading and writing. The same module is required for secondary level teachers. Additionally, elementary level teachers have to have the module Foundation in Reading, Instructional Practices, and Assessment of Reading. I'm going to go back to the slide just for a minute to point out what's in blue. We have many educators out there that have a K-12 certification, our libraries, our music teachers, band teachers, and things like that. Depending upon which school they teach at will determine which content reading and writing course they take. If I'm a librarian at a secondary school, I'm going to take the secondary content area reading and writing. If I teach at the elementary school, then I will take the hours that are designed to match that module for reading and writing. So when do teachers need to have this endorsement by? As an elementary teachers, they have 10 years to obtain this endorsement. Secondary teachers have 5 years to obtain this endorsement. I think this chart is going to help you. If you think about every teacher has a time when their clock starts. Their clock starts when their license renews. So the example I'm given is my license. My license renews in 2016. I have 5 years, because I have elementary certification, to earn the first 2 modules by the year 2021. I have until the year 2026 to complete all 4 of those modules required for an elementary certification. So I have 10 years from when my clock starts. Secondary teachers, remember they have 1 module to complete. That's that content area reading and writing. They have 5 years in which to obtain this endorsement. So we have to think about, when does their clock start? When does their certificate renew? If it renews in 2016, they'll have 5 years from that date till 2021 to obtain either the graduate credit hours or the PD hours in the content area reading and writing module. The 5 years also goes across to the K-12 educators, for example, art, music, librarians. So they have 5 years from when their clock begins. So we're going to talk about some of the options that are being provided in South Carolina. You'll see the web link there. The web link links you to a list of colleges and universities and other vendors that are making available this coursework. It has to be approved by the South Carolina Department of Education, the Read to Succeed office, and what they do is they update this list on a regular basis. Locally, these are some of the graduate hour options that have already been approved through the State Department. The Citadel, you see all 4 of those modules listed. College of Charleston, you see 2 of the modules listed. And Charleston Southern, you see 3 of the modules listed. It doesn't mean that they're not going to eventually have all modules available, but at this time, those are the ones that are approved by the Read to Succeed office. So when we think about what does this mean for our teachers, if they choose to go the graduate hour route, the estimated cost will vary. It depends upon their status. They may already be in a graduate level where they're working on their master's, and so the cost may be one price. There are some districts that have negotiated for other prices for their teachers as well. There's some teachers that have student teachers that are allowed to have one course at no charge, and so they may take advantage of that. So the cost varies depending upon the college or the university. So we asked around, what are some other districts doing around us? Dorchester, too. They've partnered with Charleston Southern University, and in 2015-16, this year, they paid partial teacher cost for the graduate hours. In 2016-17, Dorchester, too, is discontinuing the funding for this. They no longer have the funds available. In Charleston County, this year, for College of Charleston, they paid the teacher cost. In 16 and 17, they are going to continue their partnership with College of Charleston, but they're also working on creating some in-house options. We've talked about the graduate hours. Now we're going to kind of change gears and talk about some professional development hours that are being offered by the State Department of Education. You'll see on the left-hand side, those are the available modules. On the right-hand side would be the cost for the teachers. Any teacher can participate in this online opportunity through e-learning to participate in this PD hour for each module for $85. If they're a member of a cohort of 30 or more students, they can participate for $80. So let's think back to the elementary teacher. They would have to take 4 of these modules to complete the endorsement. If I'm a secondary level teacher, I would only need to take 1 of these. So in Berkeley County, what we've begun to do is we've tried to think about what are some ways that we can provide this support for our teachers that are being required to do this through Read to Succeed. So we wanted to come up with an option that was no cost for our teachers. What we've chosen to do is to model our offerings after what the State Department is doing through e-learning. So what we want to provide, and what we've already begun providing, are online courses. If you look at the top half of the table, you'll see that these are free for teachers. They began in January and they're ongoing. They are 7-week courses for teachers, and they can participate through an online method. So they're able to work during their planning period if they choose to do so, or at home. It's their option. The way the course is designed is middle of the week. They have an assignment that's due where they've had some readings, and they post and respond to questions. And then by the end of the week, they have a second assignment that is due. This course lasts for 7 weeks. The first week allows teachers to kind of gain an understanding of how the system works. So it walks them through how you post assignment, how you, find the readings on the website, things like that. So we've begun this, and we began in our rural schools first because we knew that they had the farthest to travel to PD if we offered it at the Minriv the Minriv area. So what we've decided to do is start with those rural schools first. Those were with the elementary teachers. If you look at the bottom half of the table, this is our plan for secondary teachers. If you think about secondary teachers, not every secondary teacher is a teacher of reading. We have biology teachers, we have U.S. history teachers, and so we felt that it was really important that the course that was developed for those teachers be meaningful for those teachers. So all the content coordinators that work in our office, social studies coordinator, ELA coordinator, science coordinator, et cetera, came together to help develop this course. And so we want to roll it out in the same way that we've rolled out with elementary, so they would have the opportunity to be able to participate in the 7-week training. Remember that secondary teachers have one course work to take, or one module, and that's a content area, reading and writing. So just a reminder, thinking back, for our elementary teachers, those are the 4 modules in which they need to participate. They can do that through graduate hours or PD hours. So we placed a check on the first one because we've already rolled out that course. And when I say course, it's really not a course, it's PD hours that we've rolled out. What we need to do in order to support our teachers is to be able to provide them access to gain the other 3 modules that are required with a teacher endorsement. Those are listed at the top. Foundations in Reading. Our plan is to have that in place by December 2016. Our Instructional Practices module, we plan to have that in place by May 2017. And the Assessment of Reading by August 2017. Now I'm going to shift gears. You're thinking about Read to Succeed, there are 8 components. Now we're going to move forward to summer reading, and I have some really good news to share with you guys. Last year, we had an overwhelming positive response, not just from our teachers, from our students, from our parents. It was great to go in there during the summer and visit those sites and see the excitement and enthusiasm for learning in the middle of the summer. We have a video that we would like to share with you, but before we begin, I wanted to talk to you about how we use the video. What we did is when we sent out applications for students to participate in the reading camp, we included this QR code so they would have the access to kind of take a look at what happens during summer reading camp. So these are some captions from last year. Trish, are you able to click on the link? Okay. Okay, just need to press the play button. I think you're going to have to connect the screens back. Okay.
Berkeley County Summer Reading Camp provides a relaxed and collaborative atmosphere to help build confidence and a love of reading among our kids. The camp is designed around a solar system theme to engage kids with a high-interest science topic. The daily learning experiences allow kids to acquire a variety of effective reading strategies that will help them on their path to reading success. The camp provides a technology-rich environment. Every student will use an iPad to enhance learning as they research, create, and collaborate in fun and innovative ways. Movement strategies are used throughout the day to strengthen the brain while getting kids up and moving. The arts and character traits such as perseverance, courage, and teamwork are infused to help develop the whole child. The camp also includes in-house field trips, such as the STAR Lab, to provide real-world opportunities for students to apply their learning. The parent showcase events give kids time to share all they've done with their parents. This is an exciting and special time for all involved. Berkeley County 3rd grade summer reading camp is a wonderful opportunity for kids. We hope you will accept this invitation and send your child on a fun-filled journey of learning discovery. Be sure to send your registration form back by April 29th to reserve a spot for your child.
Thanks, Trish. One thing I wanted to let you know is that we had 100% parent participation in the open events that we had where we invited parents. It was definitely a good place to be, and thank you, Stephanie, for creating the video for us. Trish, can you bring the PowerPoint back up? Duplicate the screen. Oh, it's already duplicated. Okay. The feedback that we've received from parents from the last year's camp were very positive, and we think that it helped us to create a better camp for this year. What we heard from parents is that the 6-week time period was too long, that they really wanted to have it reduced, and that would allow for family time and for other things to happen. So we've reduced the camp to 4 weeks based upon the feedback that we received from parents. What this means for kids is there's going to be, thank you, an extended day, longer than it was last year. So what we plan to do is get feedback again this year and make sure that parents feel good about the 4 weeks and that students are also being as successful as they were last year with that extended time. Another thing that we heard is that it was really important that students gain a real deep understanding about the methods and strategies that were being shared, and we heard this from teachers. So what we've done is we've really focused on 4 strategies throughout the camp, and we're going very deep. And these strategies will help students transfer their learning from reading to other subjects. For instance, a comprehension strategy may be to summarize. It's important that students summarize as they go along when they're reading to help them better understand it, and that's something they can do in all subject areas. Another major component of summer reading camp are partnerships. Last year we had mentors. We were unable to get a mentor for each student. And so what we did this year to strengthen the camp is we've turned that partnership into a reading buddy type of partnership. So we will have folks that come in once a week that participate in reading buddy time. And during this time we're going to have a book fair for kids. So they will be able to take books home every week, and they'll have an opportunity to share with their reading buddies. We're providing some very short snippet videos for the folks that are going to help us out during this time, so then they can learn a little bit more about how they go about reading with the child if they haven't had that experience before, how to ask them questions along the way when they're reading to help them better understand. Okay. The camp is going to be held in June. You'll see the weeks up there, June 6th through the 30th, Monday through Thursday. What we want to do is to keep you informed, and so as updates are given for Read to Succeed and these 8 components, we will continue to present information to you guys. Do you have any questions at this time?
Very thankful we added a site at JK. There are a lot of folks who are challenged with transportation, and I appreciate acknowledging that and providing something closest to those kids. I appreciate it.
Let me ask a question before you go.
Yes, sir.
Each student's going to have to register in order to take part in that?
Yes, sir. The State Department gave us guidelines of which students could attend. They had to fall within a certain achievement range, and so we sent those out to parents. We've mailed them out, and then there are a few that we've gotten back in terms of maybe that the address was not correct, so we're calling those students on an individual basis. Okay, Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Moving on to agenda item 15, the superintendent's report. All yours.
I'll be brief and I'll be positive. There are only two things that I must share this evening because I've been a part of two spectacular events. One was focused on some of our adults, in fact, our so-called rookie teachers who hit a home run their first time at bat. And on Monday afternoon at Westview, we recognized 25 schools who gave us 26 nominees for their Rookie Teacher of the Year. And the winner for this year, they were all winners. You can't go wrong if you hit a home run. But the winner this year is St. Stephen Elementary, Dorian Palladino, and it was quite an amazing event to recognize those first-year teachers. And I shared that if I looked back on my first year, it was not pretty. And so they, did an amazing job, and very nice to have an opportunity to recognize them. This morning, Archie and I and Kevin, I think that's the folks I remember seeing, were at an activity called Accelerate Greater Charleston. And this is an opportunity to recognize in a very special way some of our Career Academy completers. And the Accelerate Greater Charleston scholarships started out in 2014. They awarded 12. In 2015, they awarded 15. This year, based on contributions from individuals and from local businesses, they were able to award 75 scholarships, 2 years at Trident Technical for free to these Academy graduates who came from many schools across the 4 school districts in our region, but notably were a number of young folks from academies of Berkeley in Berkeley County. And this is a free ride for 2 years, and it's pretty amazing. And the smiles were abundant not only on the kids' faces, but on the parents' faces. And this is a group of kids who will be able to do 2 years at Trident Technical without having any student loans to pay off at the end of those 2 years. So quite an amazing opportunity to be a part of that event today. So thanks to the Charleston Metro Chamber for their sponsorship and the many businesses and individuals who contribute to make that happen, and the efforts of our students supported by their great teachers in our career academies. And that's all I have.
Okay, moving on then to agenda item 16, our executive session, where we will hear 6 student attendance appeals. We will hear 4 student expulsion appeals, and a discussion of pending employment matters. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session, again to hear student attendance, expulsion appeals, and then also any pending employment matters. Do we have any discussion? And all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And we are in executive session.